On a dark autumn evening, on the 16th day of the 10th month of 1279, Abutsu, a well-known poet and a recent widow, visited the Shingon Buddhist temple Diatsuji to seek a blessing before she departed for Kamakura on a mission to gain an inheritance for her son. In the temple, founded in 750 by Kobayashi, founder of Shingon Buddhism, even today an annual ceremony commemorates the beginning of this journey, immortalized by Abutsu in her Journal of the Waning Moon, also called a Zayo Nikki. Bidding farewell to her children, she set off for Kamakura, some 500 kilometers away, where the military tribunal who would rule on her petition were located. She was determined to keep for her son the handwritten poetry manuscripts his father, her late husband, Tamiya Fujiwara, had preserved for the emperor. Abutsu had become a Buddhist nun on the death of her husband some 3 years previously, and because of complex rules of inheritance, her husband's will was challenged by his son from a previous marriage. She was determined to acquire for her son the valuable papers which had been commissioned by the emperor. Her journal, kept in the traditional travel writing style of the times, begins, "It is the season of early winter, the time of unpredictable skies, and there seems to be no end to the showers." Abutsu quotes a waka by her friend the Empress, who dedicated this chapel to Abutsu after her death. If your loving heart remains behind with them, they will not wither, even in the frost to come. These wild pinks of Yamato. The pinks are a metaphorical reference to Abutsu's children who are left behind. The waka, later called tanka, is a traditional poem of 31 syllables in the courtly tradition. The waka makes up the bulk of the journal, and following the tradition of courtly writing, offered references to other journals, poems, and historical events which literate Japanese readers would be familiar with. The waka were connected by references to the present events on her trip, growing out of the moments, much as in later writings. From Kyoto, Abutsu's journal across Japan takes her finally to Kamakura, a long and difficult trip which would take 14 days. The trip was an especial hardship for a woman in her mid to late 50s. She said in the beginning of the journal, "No one forces me to take this journey, but I could not linger just because it was difficult to go." One of her most famous wakas was written on the second day out in the faint light of the moon. The travelers are up and ready to depart as the dawn comes. Astride horses, they cross this misty Yasu River. The first part of the journal is a farewell to her children. The latter part and much of the journal is political, as she is conscious of the need to persuade the counselors at Kamakura of her wish for the inheritance to be resolved in her son's favor. Abutsu writes, "As we crossed the Fuji River near the barrier in Mino province, if I did not wish my sons to be of service to the emperor, would I cross this barrier at the Fuji River?" The rain continued. Roads were muddy and difficult to travel. At one point, they were forced to leave the road and travel across the muddy paddies. Crossing a floating bridge of boats tied together with vines at the Tsunemata River She weaves the dangerous crossing into the waka. As ephemeral, transient world, this floating bridge of boats drifts in the current, as I do. This is one of the essentials in the composition of the waka, a metaphor which binds the inner and the outer life. On the 20th of the month, the party arrives at Arito Station in Owari Province and stops to visit the Atsura Shrine, where a relic of the Emperor's divinity was kept. I pray that my wish will come true and the gods will bestow their favors, such as they ordain the tides bearing the beach at Narumi. On the 22nd of the month, they set out before dawn by the light of a late moon. Even the lingering moon at dawn wears a rain hat and begins its journey just as we have.